Welcome everyone to another of our MESA webinars for 2025. Trying to make a regular and frequent occurrence of this and really reinforce a lot of the work that we're doing around these different topics in all sorts of different content mediums. Today's topic for our webinar is MES, the cornerstone of the connected factory worker. Once again, a focus really on one of a core competency of manufacturing operations management software, that is the MES, or manufacturing execution system. And really, again, because we're in this era of smart manufacturing and digital transformation, a little bit of a new take to make sure that our membership and those who will look upon MESA to understand the lay of landscape in this industry and how it's evolving, that in the digital era we still are, the cornerstone is MES. It is a foundational technology and an important technology to get right in your overall digital transformation strategy. We're seeing, again, digital transformation, a convergence of cutting edge technologies, traditional manufacturing processes, and really new ways of thinking. Data, connectivity, automation unlock new levels of efficiency, innovation, value creation. The connected factory worker, the idea of bringing the human in the loop, I've heard this often said, those folks need real-time information and really should have access to it with the kinds of tools and technologies we have available to us today to achieve more, to drive data-driven insights, really bring up our game to the next level of collaboration, communication, and productivity. So if you're not familiar yet with me, I'm Chris Monchinsky. I lead up MESA's Knowledge Committee. The Knowledge Committee is really the place where we curate and generate and evangelize all of the content that is one of the important value propositions of MESA and the MESA community. Enough about me, though. Let's talk about MESA. MESA is the important topic here. If you're not familiar with MESA, if you're new to MESA, or if you've been wandering the desert for the last couple of years, how dare you? MESA is the Manufacturing Enterprise Solution Association. We are a nonprofit association for our industry. We have members in 40 countries, and we've been serving the industry since 1992. Our mission, our goal is to be a place where all of you can work with everybody else that's participating in this webinar and the wider group within MESA as a trusted, non-commercial, and professional environment where we can exchange information, address business challenges, share expertise, and look for solutions in this space. It's a fast-moving space. It is a space that is challenging. It always has been. We used to coin it as plant to enterprise. You can see that phrase there. That was an early slogan of MESA. Now it's IT and OT convergence, but whatever you call it, the challenge has been there since 1992 and even before, and it's never been more important for us to all collaborate, learn from one another, and apply best practices. So that is MESA, and I hope that you find value here, continue to find value here through the various content that we provide, and absolutely be part of that conversation and contribute. So you are in a Zoom webinar today. As you're in this webinar, you have a toolbar that may be at the top of your screen or floating at the bottom of your screen, depending upon Zoom's version and how it's rendered. But you do have the ability to chat and raise Q&A. So the Q&A button is where you can ask questions. We would ask that you hold questions, and we will not really address questions until the end of the webinar, but we'll leave time for that. So queue up your questions in the Q&A area. And then Abigail and I will look at those questions and give them to our presenter. Our presenter today is John Clements, who's agreed graciously to spend more time with us today, and he's going to present this topic of the connected worker and how it is really foundational through the development and implementation of MES. With that, I want to stop sharing and give the floor to John Clements. Thanks, John, for joining us today and presenting.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate that. Let me share my screen here and I will get started. So can everybody see that screen?
I am good on my end. Hopefully everyone else is terrific.
All right. All right. Then let's get rolling. Hey, so again, welcome everybody. Thanks for being here. We really appreciate your time. We're going to be talking about MES and how it is the cornerstone for the connected factory worker. Again, I'm John Clemens, chairman of the MESA International America's Board of Directors. I've actually been with MESA in several different roles over many, many years, going back to its original founding in the early 90s, even helped write part of the original Mesa model and the subsequent Mesa models that you've probably seen since then. Some of the latest work that I've been doing with Mesa has always been with MES, but I've also spent some time working on this idea of the connected factory worker, and most recently have been working on some stuff with AI. So before our webinar started, I was talking to Chris about maybe another topic for a webinar coming soon might be AI in manufacturing. And I'd like to put in a plug for that, and everybody stay tuned, and hopefully we'll see that or maybe several different webinars on AI um, coming out soon. So let's just get into it here and talk about the connected factory worker a little bit here. So I think I've introduced myself, so we're good. So I think everybody knows that where we're sitting here in the digital era is we're seeing the convergence of cutting edge technologies with traditional manufacturing. And sometimes that works pretty well. Sometimes there's issues. But when I say cutting edge, I mean, you know, you look at the football games, including the Super Bowl that we just saw, and they show all those next gen stats and everything. And I'm like going, next gen stats, we were doing that 10 years ago in manufacturing. And for cutting edge technologies, there's a lot of stuff. I mentioned the AI, there's a lot of cool stuff that's coming along there. Some of the keys is that, see, it's this data, it's this connectivity, it's this automation, it's all of these things working together that are creating these new levels of efficiency, innovation, and value creation. So, to do things better, faster, and cheaper in manufacturing, it requires this technology. So, the connected factory worker, the idea here is that we have an operator, a factory worker that has real time information, that has insights, they have tools, and they are able to collaborate, communicate, and through all of that, be productive and essentially be able to do more than they've ever been able to do before because they've got the right tools. So, what are we really talking about here? If workers don't have the information, it leads to miscommunications, to bad decisions, to high turnover, inefficiencies. Essentially, an ineffective workforce costs more than just the hours you waste. It ends up limiting your business potential because ultimately, your workers are your most valuable asset. So, what are some of the challenges? How do we get people trained? How do we get knowledge transfer going? I mean, PwC in one of their surveys concluded that only 27% of the business leaders said they've got the employees they need that have the qualifications to master this digital future. So if I don't have the right kind of workers that are performing at an expert level with the tools they need, I'm compromising productivity, safety, efficiency, and ultimately costing me a lot of money. Because without those tools, without these technologies, these work processes, companies are just going to struggle and they're going to face a very hard competitive situation to just do what they need to do to stay in business. With modern tools, we can help redesign our processes, focus on the people, and get the people what they need so that they can be productive and they can do their job better. So that we can essentially create a modern work environment, a work environment where people actually want to come to work in manufacturing, which has been a challenge. I think everybody knows for years, new workers are like, no, I don't want to work in manufacturing. I don't want to work in some dirty, stinky, smelly, sweaty kind of environment. I want a nice, high tech office kind of environment. But we can transform the manufacturing environment with these digital tools, these digital technologies, so that we can attract, retain, and ultimately empower a very modern workforce. And that's what our goal is. And the idea is create this connected factory worker, improve their ability to get things done by giving them the right tools and the right technologies. So, what is it that this connected factory worker really needs? Okay. Several things, and some of this probably is going to be pretty basic, but I just wanted to kind of hit some of this stuff and go through this a little bit. What do they need? They got to have their own device. Okay. They can't show up and see things being done on paper. They can't show up and say, okay, well, you got 20 people and you got to share this one computer terminal. It's like, no, they've got to have their own device. It's going to be their device. They're going to set it up the way they need to do it. And they're going to do everything they need on that device. And they're going to carry that with them 24/7. And everything that's going on, they're going to do with that device. Smartphone, iPad, something like that is going to be part of their job, which means that you got to have a powerful network so that you have a very high speed network so that they can upload and download everything they need to do, whether it's data, communications, whatever it is that they need to do, you've got the network to support that. They need to have direct communications with people. So, whatever device they're using, smartphone or whatever, they need to be able to call, chat, email, text, video, anybody, anywhere in the world, essentially instantaneously. And you're like, hey, wait a second. What about this anywhere in the world? I don't want. Well, you've got plants located all over the world. They have colleagues all over the world. They have their counterparts in other plants all over the world. They need to be able to contact them. Then they need to be able to contact them instantly. So you can't even have any organizational barriers. You don't need to have somebody be able to go talk to their boss, to talk to their boss's boss, to talk to their boss's boss so they can talk to a counterpart that they have in another plant. Let's say they have a simple situation like, hey, I got this material from this supplier and I don't think this is the right stuff. It's not working right. It can't be the right stuff. I heard that our other plant 10,000 miles away got some of this material a month ago. I got to get a hold of them right now and find out what they did. Is it the same material? What problems they had? What they did to fix it? And that kind of stuff. That's what I'm talking about. Direct communications, no organizational barriers to the communications. Get the information you need, get the right information at the right time. And that includes external communications. So, it's pretty easy to think about contacting somebody in another plant that's your counterpart, even if they're halfway around the world. But what about suppliers, customers, vendors, industry experts, government resources? Okay. The idea is that your workers need to build a network of people that support them in their job, even government resources, industry experts, obviously your suppliers, your vendors, and especially your customers. So they need to be able to communicate with those people when they need to be able to communicate with them about essentially anything. Ultimately, your workers need access to data, and they need that data, and they need that data, and there can't be any data silos. One of the worst things that I hear, and I still hear it, it's 2025, and I still hear this from customers when people say things like, well, that's my data, or I don't have access to that data, or that's some other piece of data. I mean, I was at a, excuse me, at a customer plant just recently, and they were talking about that. And I said, well, okay, I see what's going on here, but let me ask some questions. Have you been getting any customer complaints that have been referencing something that you can trace back to this particular issue that you're having here? Oh, we don't have access to any of the customer complaint data. We don't know. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Here you are trying to deal with a problem on the manufacturing floor that might be an even bigger problem all the way to your customers, and you have no access to the customer complaint data. So you don't even know if any of your customers have noticed this problem or have identified this or have given you any feedback about the effects that they're seeing because of this problem. No, we don't have any access to any customer complaint data. Okay. I mean, you think about this. You are looking at the horizon, and you are trying to navigate your manufacturing operation into the future. And if you look in the past, things aren't what they were even a month ago, let alone a year ago. Everything's changing, and everything's changing in a much more rapid pace than it ever has. The data, the facts, are the only thing you've got to use to navigate into the future. So you've got to get the facts and you've got to get beyond this. Well, my data says this and my data says that. You've got to get the facts. Yeah, there's going to be different opinions about what you should do based on the facts. Some people say, well, I think we should do this. I think we should do that. Fine, but get the facts. The facts are your guide that's going to guide you into the future. You've got to get the facts. And where do the facts come from? It's the data. And so it's always, always about the data. And I've got to have access to all the data. I can't be hearing these things about, well, we don't have this customer's complaint data, or, well, I don't have that data because that's the ERP data, or I don't have this. Okay. Um, you've got to have access to all the data because in most cases it's going to be the intersection of all the data that gives you the real insights. And when I see this data versus this data versus this data that all happening at the same time, I get to see what's really going on and I get to see where my problems come from. And ultimately, the data has to be here, right now, because I'm trying to make decisions right now. I'm trying to do this. I don't need to know what happened a week ago or a month ago or a year ago. I need to know what's going on now so I can make the right decision and we can move forward. But, a lot about data. I could probably talk more and more about this idea of data, but, it's going to be more than just that. Okay. There's going to be transactions, particularly activities, actions, transactions that need to be performed on the shop floor. It might be orders, shipping, receiving, inspections, consumption, production. I mean, whatever's going on, we need to be able to perform those track transactions, which means they need to be simple and easy. I don't need a worker like this guy holding this iPad. I don't need to go to 10 different screens to perform a simple transaction. If I've got screen, I can do it and I can be done with it. That probably means rethinking and redesigning a whole bunch of solutions that you've probably got because I've yet to see very many solutions on the shop floor that were designed to be that simple and easy. But that's what the connected factory worker needs. Because the other thing is, they don't need these silos of systems. They don't care that this transaction has to go in the ERP system, and this transaction has to go in the inventory system, and this transaction has to go into the procurement system. They don't want to hear about that kind of stuff. They don't even want to know those systems exist. That's somebody's problem in the back office to sort all that out. All they know is that here they are on the shop floor. They need to do this and this, and it needs to be simple. If that's one thing, but has to go to three different systems, then somebody else needs to sort that out. This transactions needs to be simple and easy for me. And what that means is it means ultimately it's got to be easy to use and they have got to be able to you've got to be able to make that system simpler and easier for them. And so essentially what you're doing is all of that technology, whether it be ERP or inventory or PLM or CMMS, or I could go down all the acronyms in the world, is all behind the scenes. They don't see all that. They don't want to have to log into this system and then log out, then log into this system, then log out, then log into this system and do something else there just to get their job done. They've got too much to do. There's too few of the workers out there for them to spend that kind of time. They need to do it and they need to do it quick. It's got to ultimately be about the people on the shop floor and getting their jobs easier so that they can do everything better and faster and ultimately cheaper to get the product out the door. And that's what it's all about. So that what that means is it can't be about the technology. So solution providers, systems integrators, software engineers, system designers need to rethink what you're doing to make these solutions seamless. So when you hand an iPad to the guy on the shop floor, What you're handing them is something that is very easy and simple to use, and all of that complexity is handled behind the scenes, and they don't have to worry about it or even know about it. Now, so what's the bottom line? It's not a pick and choose what you think you can do. It's like, nope, you got to have all of this. It's got to be there. It's got to be devices. It's got to be network. It's got to be data. It's transactions. It's got to be all of these things because it takes all of this to make the connected factory worker. All of these different pieces is what's required to make it work. So let's talk about a few use cases here. I don't want to get too bogged down with just a few of the details here, but I think we can see a few things about this idea of getting the right information at the right time to the right person, the right location. Predictive information, okay, whether it be predictive maintenance or other type of AI analyses, okay, a great way for the connected factory worker to understand what's going on, get the information, do predictive maintenance, maintenance planning, tying maintenance planning into production scheduling. All of those pieces is a great application for the connected factory worker. Another one is remote support, whether it be from OEMs or automation contractors or systems integrators, but being able to get support so that when you have a connected factory worker and needs help from one of these people, maybe the system integrator, maybe the OEM that designed and built this piece of equipment, that they can get that and they can get that information, they can get that support simply and easily. Another great use case is work instructions. One of the things that is great about solutions like MES is that it doesn't really matter where the work instructions come from or even what the work instructions might look like. I mean, they could be documents, they can be drawings, they can be audio, they can be video, they can be pictures, they can be AR and VR components, they can even be interactive work instructions. But solutions like MES can provide those on-demand work instructions to the connected factory worker. So here's the connected factory worker with an iPad and being able to pull up the work instruction that they need right there on the spot instantaneously. Location-based information. Many factory workers have different responsibilities throughout the facility and they're moving all the time to different places to do different things. And it could be things like more work instructions, manuals, drawings, machine control, performance. The point is that if they're looking at a particular machine, they don't want to get an application or a work instruction or some other something for a different machine in a different location. If they're here, they need to be able to get that information. So adding that location component to the data gets me not only the right information, the right time to the right person, but at that person at that location so that it's based on the context of where the person is and what they're doing. Another one is just real time process information, whether it be things like set points, energy consumption, general performance, yield, quality, other process information, status, but being able to have access to that information for any particular work center or piece of equipment that there's responsibility. It's a great use case for the connected factory worker, real time process information. One of the ideas that we were trying to achieve with all of this is to get to paperless operations. The idea that we can do this job without having mounds of paper all over the place. That we can do this everything we need on this particular iPad or whatever it is. And so we've got digital execution, digital quality, digital genealogy, digital work instructions, all of these things to create this paperless environment for the connected factory worker. Another use case, training and upskilling staff. Okay, high performance work systems, pay for versatility, on demand learning, on the job training, knowledge bases, communities. All of these things are great ways that this technology supports the connected factory worker. So that's just a few of the use cases. Another one to mention is this idea of AR and VR and how that fits in to the connected factory worker. And everybody kind of knows what AR and VR is, but a lot of people still haven't embraced the power of AR and VR. They haven't really used it, but look at everything that it does. Training, being able to boost your skills by going through training that's AR and VR based training, having work instructions that are AR VR based work instructions to increase productivity and improve speed and accuracy, error proofing operations, or being able to use AR and VR for maintenance and repair to make sure that the equipment is brought back online as quickly as possible. So ultimately, what are we trying to achieve here with the connected factory worker? Well, we've got some goals and objectives here. We want to engage the workforce. We want to minimize our downtime, maximize our yields, product quality, and improve safety. So that's what we're trying to achieve. But more than that, we are trying to empower the workforce. So, with things like remote support, repair, maintenance, actionable information, collaboration, problem solving, to create an empowered workforce. And it's going to take a lot of technology that is going to enable this. Things like the IoT, mobile devices, location based services, barcode, RFID, wearables. I mean, that could be a long list of technology enablers that are all part of that. But ultimately, to make this work, it's got to be simple. It's got to be meaningful, meaning that it's part of their job. They know what this is. This isn't just filling out some random piece of paper that somebody somewhere thinks they need. It's meaningful to their job. And it has bottom line benefits, bottom line economic gains. But ultimately, it has to be adopted. And that's one of the biggest challenges because this requires a high degree of change management. Okay, this isn't easy. The technology's not easy, but the adoption and the change management is not easy. And sometimes you might experience a high barrier to entry, but the bottom line is you have a large upside with this, and the benefits are well worth it. So we started out talking about MES as being the cornerstone for all of this. So let's talk a little bit about the idea of MES and tie that back to this connected factory worker. So this is the original MESA model that everybody's probably familiar with from the early 90s. You know, there's been a few things that have changed, but ultimately, this is not necessarily any different today than it was in the early 90s. These are still the requirements for MES. MES is still responsible for everything on the shop floor from shipping dock to receiving dock, everything below the ERP and above the automation and controls layer. That's the scope of MES. So, what is it going to do? It's going to do order execution, it's going to do traceability, track and trace, genealogy. It's going to do the work instructions that we've been talking about. It's going to do your quality, your in process shop floor quality checks and inspections. It's going to do your recipes, recipe management, set points, bills of materials. It's going to do performance management. It's going to do WIP inventory management. It's going to provide visibility and analytics on your manufacturing operations and your quality. What are some of the questions that MES is going to answer for you? What should I be making right now? What's the next order I'm supposed to be running? What materials am I supposed to be using? Where? What recipes? What's my bill of material? Do I have all my work instructions? What are my work instructions? What quality checks need to be performed? What's my Ranges for my quality index. How do I know something passes and fails? I get all that from MES. If you're a manager, you might be asking questions like, hey, what materials did you use to make this product? Or where was this particular raw material used in which products? I got a client on the phone. He wants to know what the status of this order is. Are we going to ship it today or not? What's our OEE numbers looking like? Are we winning the hour, winning the day, winning the shift? Why did that order take so long? How did we actually make this order? What processes? Who made this order? Those are some of the questions that MES answers. Ultimately, again, it bridges the gap between the business world and the manufacturing world, and it allows you to attack the waste streams that are in manufacturing, whether it be materials, labor, capacity, with yields, downtime, changeovers, different things like that. Because it gives you the data and the tools to attack these particular waste streams. But just to be clear, MES isn't some magic silver bullet that's just going to come in there and do all these things for you. There is a technology component that we've been talking about, and that list is pretty long. But there's also this information and data component, or the idea of taking all that data, turning that data into information, and ultimately that information into knowledge, so that people have to be trained, educated to understand what all this means. And then ultimately they have to be empowered to make those kind of decisions once they have the technology and the education that they need. And it's only through this process, in short, it's smart technology and smart people working together. Only in that way are you going to get the business benefits? Are you going to get the dollar return that you want? And in fact, we talk at Mesa here a lot about smart manufacturing. But ultimately, smart manufacturing, even if we give you a long, convoluted definition, is really all about smart technology and smart people working together to achieve the desired results. And that's what it's about. But there's no way it's all about the technology. And there's no way the technology can do it by itself. It's the technology and the people. Having the technology without the people is worthless. But having people without the right tools and technologies, they're just not going to be able to do what they need to do. It's the smart people and the smart technology working together. So what ultimately is the benefits of this whole idea of connected factory worker? I mean, what are we going to get out of it? Well, I think you're going to get a lot. You can get a lot. The benefits are real. Okay. Things like reducing downtime, lowering ramp up defects, reducing maintenance, improving first pass yield and first pass quality, reducing your costs, your inventories, your cycle times, getting more agility, more flexibility, more capability into your manufacturing plant, making manufacturing part of a resilient and responsive supply chain. These are some numbers that have been delivered by or been reported by the World Economy Forum, McKinsey, several other places over the last few years that actually show real world returns from these kind of solutions. Improves operating efficiency, yields, asset utilization, reducing labor costs, energy costs, and these are all real world numbers here. I work for Rockwell Automation as a global solution consultant, and what you might not know about Rockwell is we're also a manufacturing company. We have 20 manufacturing plants around the world, and we practice what we preach so that we have implemented these kinds of technologies in our own manufacturing plants, and these are the results that we've achieved. reducing our CapEx expenditures, improving our on time delivery, reducing our lead time, reducing our inventories, improving our quality. These are real world results that we've achieved, and we've published these things through Mesa and LNS. So, another thing to look at is Industry Week over the years has taken a good look at MES to figure out what the benefits of MES are. And they say MES helps improve your profitability. It helps you improve your productivity. It allows you to improve your productivity more rapidly. So not only are you getting better, but you can get better faster and you can reduce your manufacturing costs. You can reduce your product costs. You also can reduce your energy and reduce that consumption faster than not using an MES. You can have higher process capability, improved yields, reducing cycle time, and new employees require less training when they have these kinds of tools at their disposal to be able to use. So the bottom line is that the benefits of the connected factory worker, the benefits of MES as part of that connected factory worker scheme are real. You can look at the list here: inventory reduction, improved yield, improved OEE, labor reduction, reduced variances, shorter time to market, reduced waste, reduced energy, more agile, more responsive, better consistency. I mean, all these are real dollar bottom line benefits that you can achieve. So I think we've kind of got the message here. I just want to say thank you for being part of this. We've left plenty of time for questions. So at this point, Chris, let's open it up to questions and see what everybody wants to say.
That's terrific. Thanks, John. Appreciate it. It was insightful and a relevant topic when we think about where to apply, what again, what's new and different about digital transformation and the technologies that we have at our disposal. What can we do differently? How can we find additional nuggets of value and drive efficiency further? I think connected worker and concepts around this are critically important to understand and really get to the heart of one of the things that's always bedeviled us. A lot of content over the years, a lot of ink has been spilled in Mesa about how we get people to adopt and properly use the tools that they have at their disposal through tools like MES, right? And I think Connected Worker starts to really uncover the blend between cultural change, workforce challenges, and the application of technology as a tool. So terrific content. So I have a couple of questions. Absolutely. Mark Freeman asked the question: what basic infrastructure we should be working on first to create that fully connected system to make it possible?
Yeah, okay. So as far as that is concerned, just remember it's not a destination, it's kind of a journey. So it's not like, well, I just put all this in and this is all magically going to work. It's going to be what you put in now. You're going to put in more stuff again next year, year after year after. It's really a journey, not a destination. But the place to work is you obviously can't do everything all at once, but you need to just look and prioritize based on what you need and what your operation is all about. So look at your pain points, look at where you're going to get your benefits are, start small. And Chris, this kind of answers a little bit of the second question from Marcos here about how we justify investments by simply saying that the investments need to pay for yourself. This do My recommendation is don't take an approach and this again, trying to answer both Mark and Marcos's question here. Don't take an approach that says, "Hey, we got to do, we just got to spend millions and millions of dollars on everything before we get any results." It's like, no, let's start small. Let's use a snowball kind of approach. We're going to start small. We're going to snowball it, and it's going to be basically a pay as you go. So I'm going to get something going. I'm going to get some benefits out of it. Then I'm going to go to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. But the next thing, the next thing, the next thing needs to be months, not years. Maybe I do something this month, I do something again 2 or 3 months from now, then 2 or 3 months after that. And so so think of a snowball analogy, think of a pay as you go kind of approach, but these benefits are real. So you look at the idea of productivity, agility, and some of this stuff is a little difficult. Like, how do you measure agility in a manufacturing operation? What does agility in a manufacturing operation even mean? Well, yeah, it means different things for different people, but it means I can service my customers better. That I can do for my customers what they need, and I can do it better, I can do it faster, I can do it cheaper. So when a customer calls me up and says, "Hey, I want that product you sent me last month, and I want it exactly like you sent it last month, except I want it bigger and I need it yellow," you're like, oh, okay, fine. That's no big deal. Exactly like last month, except different in these five parameters, but exactly like last month. That's not a big deal for you because you've got that agility built in, and that's just another day in the at the manufacturing plant for you. But how do you justify that? How do you put a dollar line benefit on that? You got to figure out how to do that because what is the customer going to do if you can't do it? Maybe they say, okay, fine, I'm willing to wait 6 months or 3 months or however long it's going to take you to do it. Or maybe they say, fine, I'm going to go somewhere else. Okay, so there has to be ways to figure that out. But having that agility, that responsiveness, that empowered customers allows them to do new things. It allows them to increase productivity, increase quality, which all have dollar line benefits, but it also allows a lot of intangible kinds of things happening because it allows them to do things that they couldn't do before. It allows you to do things for your customers that you couldn't do before. It just opens so many doors, and if you're doing it right, the you open the right doors, you do the right things for the customers, and doing the right thing for the customers in my experience always has the payback. You do what's right for the customer and you'll get paid for that. And that's where the benefits come from. So I
That's
don't
like,
know how
yeah.
well I've answered all those questions, but I tried to at least answer Mark and Marco's questions there.
As I say, I think you definitely covered Marcos's question just for everyone. If you're not looking, Marcos is asking about companies justifying the investments in connected worker, companies creating business cases for each initiative, or a program that's driven more top down. I'm sure that different organizations have different strategies based on their maturity level and curve and adoption of technologies. As as John has pointed out and made the case that MES is a cornerstone of foundational technology for enabling a lot of these things. So if you have an MES and you have data that's structured and better control over the flow of information within your facility, it's a lot easier to start and pick off some low-hanging fruit and say, let's have a connected worker initiative. Let's drive some information down to a particular group and give them autonomy to make decisions and be more flexible to provide agility. If you're not starting from that point, I think that it's Mark also chimed in at the bottom of the questions here, but about starting small, but looking at technologies where there isn't automation, where there isn't industrial networks, where there isn't SCADA. There's still opportunities to do that using things such as VR, AR, using robots if you're in a discrete cell-based manufacturing. So there's a lot of different ways to attack this. I would also want to just advertise and plug again, as Mesa members, everyone here knows about Mesa. We have a recently revised and published ROI guidebook, which helps make the case and walk through the journey of justification of these projects around smart manufacturing and really dives into the details about what is it that the CFO, what is it that the C-suite is looking for, and how do you communicate that ROI? How do you make that case, and how do you follow up on and if you're especially if you're doing small projects, incremental projects, how do you continue to justify not only did I promise this ROI, but you measure it and demonstrate it so that you can continue that journey in those set of projects. So that's all terrific. Dave Hinkler asks a question. I know this is a sweet spot for you, John. When will MES be AI driven? Can you provide some
Well,
insight into future state?
yeah. So the good news on AI and MES is that that's being done right now. I think you're going to see a lot of that happening this year. Okay, with different MES vendors, MES solution providers coming back and having AI components and AI integration components there. So I think that is going to be that's going to be happening this year. Again, Chris, I hope we get to do that AI demo that I put together because that's really AI at the MES level, AI at an entire manufacturing line. So that's happening now. What's the insight? I think the cool thing for the future state is it's going to be a combination of different AI components. So I mean, some of the things that we're working on are things obviously like Gen AI for sure. Um, but the idea of AI agents and AI co-pilots, I mean, some very powerful ideas and some very powerful use cases around that makes sense. I mean, some of the more traditional AI where you're doing machine learning, okay, which could be both supervised and unsupervised machine learning kind of thing. That's something that's only going to get more powerful. And then one of the other things that another question I saw down there, which was things like I think Saeed had had this question about work instructions, procedures, and things like that in a simple language. You know, that's one of the things where we're starting to use Gen AI in several different use cases around work instructions and procedures. So let's think about what he's talking about here in this question. You have a manufacturing plant. I'm trying to do a particular operation, a particular work center, and what do I got? I've got who knows how many different manuals. I've got procedures. I've got work instructions. I've got engineering drawings. I've got who knows what else. And if I stacked them all together, it'd be like, I don't know, several hundred, 1,000 pages. And I'm just one lonely guy here at this work center trying to do my job without the time to sort through 1,000 pages of procedures and work instructions to figure out the one or two little piece of information I need to fix what's going on right here. That's where tools like Gen AI um, can come to play. And we're looking at ways to use that where the Gen AI digests all that materials and then can work interactive. So you can think of Gen AI, you can think of it as like a Gen AI type of co-pilot, all right, where you interact with the operator, and so the operator collaborates or works with the co-pilot, so that the co-pilot provides the information, and it's got all that information there, but it's AI driven so that it knows what's going on and it knows the what the operator needs right there. So it sorts through all of that stuff, because the idea of trying to rewrite all of those 1,000 pages of manuals, drawings, procedures, work instructions, and whatever else is there is probably impossible. I mean, I don't even know how you would go about doing that. But using a Gen AI tool on that might be help. So that's kind of the future. So I think the future is maybe not now in February of 2025, but I think it's sometime in 2025 you're going to be seeing these things happening. So Gen AI, AI agents, AI co-pilots, AI being part of MES, AI with data analytics, machine learning, all of those kind of components. One of the other things that we're also doing with Gen AI is that so in a traditional machine learning type of environment where I'm trying to do some predictive type of maintenance or I'm just doing some predictive analytics or whatever, I've got these results and we've gone through this complicated AI machine learning algorithm to produce these results. The results we believe are tangible, they're meaningful, they're actionable, there's something that's there, but that still means that an operator now has to somehow sort through all of these different results. So adding AI with the AI says, I'm going to take Gen AI with the machine learning to where Gen AI analyzes the results and tells me, okay, what the results actually mean. So my machine learning gave me these results that says I have an anomaly. I'm predicting a particular problem. But then Gen AI takes that and says, okay, well, that's what this means. That's what it means. That's what's going to happen. Now, this is what we're going to have to do. And back to all the things about the procedures and work instructions. Okay, this is how you're going to have to do all that. So the Gen AI closes the loop. And now the operator says, okay, I get it. I have a problem. This is what I need to do. This is how I do it. I can follow this. And I've got an AI. I had an AI tool on one side that analyzed all my data, predicted the anomaly, predicted the upcoming failure, and I've got another AI component here that tells me what all that means, what I need to do, and an AI co-pilot that's going to walk me through doing all this to get it done. So that's my insight to the future of AI and MES.
I think
So
I think it is insightful, and it's also evolving. As you know, that there's parallel to anything that we do in this manufacturing and industrial space. There's also there's also the concept of RPA, robotic process automation, which is back office automation, mostly applied to business systems and back office tasks, such as workflow driven, decision management driven. And then you have an evolution of that concept, which we're now adopting here and seeing in the digital transformation, which is agentic AI. So it's, you had some initial machine learning concepts that are well proven use cases. Then you had top down AI. Now you have this more nimble AI that can be seeded throughout all sorts of processes to find improvements to augment MES as it exists and extend it. And then even from there, as you pointed out, really important for this topic of connected worker is all the Gen AI. So there's lots of different ways that AI is going to evolve, and definitely MES is going to be driven by that and affected by that. So we have some content on its way being developed right now, as John kind of hinted. Stay tuned. There'll be more discussions on that. We have a couple minutes left. We have tons of questions, and we will answer them all after the webinar. But there's a couple more I'd like to take if you're game. Mike Kyle asks, what do you see in challenges for adoption, especially when it comes to areas of support, the infrastructure, security, other ancillary one-time ongoing costs? So it's one thing to have the the people themselves adopt the technology, the culture change. It's another when you're trying to justify the costs and the ongoing operational aspects of all the things that are going to take to be implemented and to be sustained in order to support these new initiatives on the floor, right? All the other departments that need to be involved and need to be collaborating on that. Talk about just some of those challenges, John.
yeah, there's actually a lot of challenges here because in some ways, this isn't getting any simpler. I can just look around at the technology that I have in my house, um, and just compare that to where I was even a few years ago and realize, wow. I mean, I've got new technology kind of showing up all over the place, and manufacturing is 100 times worse when it comes to new technology. And so, yes, being able to support that infrastructure is going to be a big deal. But the idea again is that this is vital to the manufacturing operations, and I guess that's sort of one of the things to point out is that number one, we definitely don't need any technology for technology's sake. We don't need any technology in there just because it's cool. Okay, it needs to be vital to the mission critical. Be another way to say that it's mission critical to the manufacturing operation, and it needs to produce dollar benefits on an ongoing basis for the manufacturing operation. And if it's doing those things, if it's truly mission critical and it's truly producing the benefits, then being able to support it is something that should come pretty natural, okay? But yeah, you're right. There is a lot more technology. And there's also technology conflicts. I mean, one of the biggest challenges that we have that I've seen in talking to companies is figuring out the right way to do cybersecurity. All right, because I've been in situations where cybersecurity has been very, very lax, and we have clients that have significant cybersecurity incidents. Okay, um, or cybersecurity vulnerabilities, and an incident is just kind of coming at some point. So when it comes to cybersecurity, it's not like if you're going to be attacked, it's going to be when. It's going to happen, and you have to be prepared. But at the other extreme, I've also been in environments where things have been so locked down with cybersecurity that the operators on the shop floor had to resort to pencil and paper because that's the only tool that they could use that wasn't so locked down it prevented them from doing their job. So that's a struggle. I don't know the answers to all that. I'm just seeing some of that kind of stuff going on. I'm talking to clients, particularly clients that are in highly regulated environments. We're talking like medical devices, pharmaceuticals, cell and gene therapy type of clients. where their cybersecurity is just off the charts. And I get that. Okay. But there has to be some way to figure out how to provide the level of cybersecurity, but still let the people do their jobs.
Yeah,
And
you know, John, we're almost out of time here, but if I can add one more question here from Thomas, he asks, and this is kind of also related to the technology, but it's a little bit of a different question. And I want to again put on your future think hat here. But how do you foresee the future of end user devices? So we're talking about because you're talking about the cybersecurity elements. I thought this was a really good follow on by used by connected factory workers. So again, we think about iPads and tablets, or phones, or headgear, or VR, helmets, watches, something else, something different. Of course, a lot of those platforms don't always have great cybersecurity baked in or are not well integrated into existing cybersecurity frameworks as well, which provides and I've seen this over and over again, a real challenge and a wrinkle for, we can't have that on the plant floor. So talk a little bit about what do
yeah,
those end user devices look like and what's the future look like and what are the challenges there?
yeah. So obviously, lots of challenges. Some of the stuff, is coming. Helmets, watches, other types of wearable devices. I kind of think for the foreseeable future, at least for the next year or two, a lot of those kind of things are going to be very much point solution, meaning they're not going to be truly ubiquitous. If you need some type of wearable for the particular job that you're doing, great, we're going to have that and we're going to use it. But things like iPads and phones in particular, those are the two that I'm seeing as being absolutely ubiquitous. And I mean ubiquitous. I mean every single person in the manufacturing facility will have either an iPad or a phone. And there will be applications on those that they're going to use. And they're going to carry that with them everywhere they go. And everything they do is going to be done on that iPad or phone. And it's just a matter of personal preference. Um, as far as the tech, which one you like the best, which one works the best, or whatever. But that is absolutely, and I think we're really close to that right now today. Seeing that because I have clients where again every single person's got an iPad or every single person is getting a smartphone or a smartphone type device that they're using. So I think that's going to be absolutely ubiquitous. Some of the other things like helmets and wearables and things like that are going to be a little bit more, at least for the near term, specific to people doing specific jobs still.
Yeah, great.
So
John, we're out of time. As is always, an hour flies by on a great discussion. I hope all of you found this to be valuable and interesting content. I think, given the questions and the engagement, I think the answer would be yes. And I know I learned a couple of things. I want to thank John Clemens again for spending an hour of his time and providing, insight into his expertise and long history in this practice of MES and where it's evolving into the connected work or even in some of the AI discussions. It's been a Mesa podcast. I'm Chris Manchuski. Thank you so much for joining us. We will hopefully see you all again.